This is an open letter to the Sane Society. Uh, we knew churches as being moral clubs. Those are clubs that you go into in which somebody up front tells you the limits of the current morality in the society. Morality is flexible, so from time to time gets a little tougher, and then it mellows, and then it gets a little tougher, and then it mellows. A new religion, tougher religion, or the older religions, more mellow. New religions have their own problems, and old religions have their own problems. But it all comes down to this, that every new religion that comes about, it starts as a moral club. A new religion comes about and it starts as a moral club. That is, a bunch of group of people get together. Let's be frank, it's a group of people getting together, deciding what is moral and what is immoral. What they consider is moral and what they consider is immoral. As Mr. Biden said, in New Guinea, maybe cannibalism may be considered moral. So people belonging to the Church of New Guinea are probably cannibals, and can be because that's what the group that sat together and started the Church of Papua New Guinea have decided that cannibalism is kosher. So it's just there is nothing have been. That's why you have so many branches of Christianity and so many branches of Islam and so many branches of this and that and the other, because a group have sat down and said, okay, we understand the Ten Commandments and we understand some other things, but we have our own ideas about the context. So therefore we are Catholics, therefore we are Protestants, therefore we are Lutherans, therefore we are Baptists. So it starts as a moral club by a group of people who set their own moral rules down and try to abide by it. Every church, every mosque, every synagogue, every temple starts as a moral club, and depending on how many people it gathers around itself, it's either a cult, starts as a cult, and then eventually some become, you know, uh, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and Buddhism, and Hinduism, and all of those isms. But the point is this: if they get more followers, believe me, I mean, you folks don't read history. Many of you don't. I mean, just in the Middle East, there have been something like 5,000 people during the recent 1,000 years. There have been 5,000 prophets. The guy comes, starts his moral club with his friends and his pals, and then starts rubbing the wrong shoulders, and then he gets you know he gets killed. Him and his followers get killed. So it has been a routine thing in all over the world that a group of people don't agree with the current morality, wherever it is, what it is. They start their own moral club, set their own moral rules, and if they can win, they become the new norm of that society, and if they lose their heads. But eventually they all end up being a social club. They start as a moral club. They end up as a social club. You know, where people go to socialize, to be sociable, and you can tell that their social club is because the different economical classes usually don't mix in the same church. The poor people have their own church, and the rich people have their own church, and middle class people have their own church, if there are any left. And then different religions. The Spanish people have their own church, the Germans have their own church, and the you know Mexicans have their own church, and blacks have their own church, and browns have their own church, and yellows have their own church. I mean, it was interesting to see the Korean church in Phoenix, Arizona. Big, vast block of city of Phoenix, I believe, is was the Korean Church of Phoenix. I mean, if it's a church, it's a church. What do you mean Korean church? This is what I'm saying. And then you have the immigrant church and illegal immigrants church and the legal immigrants church and the browns and the blacks and the yellows and Koreans and Japanese church. This is what I'm saying. It starts as a moral club. It ends up being a social club. Everywhere, mosques work the same way, more or less, except that they all have to go to the same place every year and meet. M- might not be bad to have a tradition of going and meeting up in Vatican, the Christians. But the point is this: something like what the because it must be at least one meeting point between all these churches, because apparently they don't agree on anything. This is what I'm saying. It has become a social club. All the churches and the synagogues and the mosques and temples, and they all have become social clubs. And this whole idea of, okay, let's accept this and accept that and accept the other, well, it's a good thing, but some of it is just it doesn't help in keeping the society going. Let's put it this way. And things with regards to you want to have a norm in which there's a reproduction taking place of the species. If the species has to remain, you want to adapt a sort of a norm that helps in keeping the species around. Maybe less destructive, maybe a little more friendly to nature, but going extinct is not also a good idea. But the point is this: as long as you don't have a moral club, all the churches and the mosques and the synagogues, they all have become social clubs. Even countries are being promoted as social club. Israel is a social club. It's no longer a moral club. I mean, it started. The idea was as of a all Zions start the same way. That's another moral club. Let's give our moral club a national territory, and let's call it Israel. Let's give our moral club a national territory, and let's call it the United States, or Brazil, or Colombia, or Germany, or Spain. Or they put a boundary on their social club. First it was a moral club, then became a social club. Then they put a boundary around, claimed a geographic territory for it. Israel is a moral club, supposedly, which has turned into a social club. Why? Because it has lost all morality. It's like they're killing a whole bunch of people for the crime of resisting being run out of their land. They were born on that land. Of course, they should have citizenship of that land, but they're pushing them out, saying that no, it's morally acceptable for us to kill you or push you out, whichever one you want to do. That's not a moral stance to stand on. Israel is a social club. Again, it's a social. It's a country came about because where people of Ashkenazi origin can go on meat and sort of like, this is ours. What do you mean this is ours? It's a, you know, first of all, you're white. If you have an ours piece of land, that you should have an ours piece of land, your piece of land should be in Europe because you're white. I mean, nobody in this world can, ethnicity declaring a piece of land as ours, as nobody is welcome here. You know, specifically, those people who are born here are not welcome. There is the idea of the white people have moved into North America and Australia and other places. Once they moved in and they got rid of the natives, they locked the doors and say, oh, that's it, no more needed. We don't need you brown, black, and whatever other colors. This is we just got rid of all the redskins, and this is now a white country. We want to keep it white. This is white people do this a lot, folks. The only continent belongs to white people is Europe. That's totally white. It's sort of like we were here from prehistoric times. This is ours. Yes, we understand. Europe is white. I'm not sure why, because of shit that Europeans and North Americans have done around the world, because of the shit they have done and the bombings and the wars that they have created. Now they have a whole bunch of Middle Easterns and Africans in Europe and North America. But if they hadn't done that, probably Europe could have stayed white. If they didn't try to colonize the rest of the planet. You go to their home, eventually some of them will find their way to your home. It works like that. One of the reasons probably aliens don't contact Earthlings is because if you don't want them in your house, in your business, you don't get into their business. It's as simple as that. And I have a feeling many aliens don't want to contact us as human beings because they don't want you in their business. Because they know if they get into your business, you want to get into their business, but they don't want you in their business because we are too primitive. We are still, very childish. We got a very childish, you know, humanity is majority of humanity seems to be very childish, very easily provoked into wars, provoked into competition, be it a sports competition or a war or something. Humans are easily provoked into competition, which usually doesn't, sometimes the results is good in terms of technology and science, but a lot of times this competition is lethal, turns lethal in terms of war and covert and operations and all of that. Anyway, my point is this. The way society can reproduce should be the norm. Now, whatever is necessary to keep up that norm, to make it function in society moving forward, whatever is necessary has to be implemented. What is necessary for society is that there must be at least one party in the family responsible for raising the children. Women cannot work, shall not work, because somebody has to raise the fucking family, raise these children with some kind of a care. Somebody has to do that. Now, what it has to happen, and how much, less you have to spend on war, but give to your people, so your women have their only job would be raising the kids. Whatever, however you have to manage this, however much you have to give value to the work done just by the man of the house, whatever value has to be given to that, to has to be given to just that, the man, so the man can provide enough for whatever, however member family that you think your population needs to keep stable numbers. This is what you have to do. And if women doesn't have a man, then she's less well off. The government should not be responsible for women being not being responsible. And you know, but still the children, their mother has to raise them. Stop this fucking bullshit that women have to work and that's equality is good. And are you fucking kidding me? One has given birth to these children, one hasn't. One, at least the mother has to be there. That's the only job of the mother should be raising the kids. And if you do that, I have a feeling you find a lot more willing mothers if the families are provided. In a way, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase and his pals and his buddies, and the CEO of Goldman Sachs and his pals and his buddies do not need so many zeros in front of their paycheck. Some of those zeros, if it's transferred to the front of the paycheck of the average people in the society, it may convince their females, their women, their wives to stay home and have more kids because then they can afford it. It's very simple. It's very simple. This is not a good. This is a very was a very short term cure. This idea of women going to work. It was a short term cure for corporations which needs cheaper labor. Corporation need cheaper labor because that increases their profit. So therefore, let's add 50% more to our workers. Let's promote women working. Who the fuck is raising the kids? That 22-year-old teacher? Are you fucking kidding me? The 22-year-old, I had one of those motherfuckers. 22-year-old, 21-year-old, 23-year-old teacher of first grade and second grade and third grade. Didn't know her ass from a hole in the ground. The one that I had. It was a 22-year-old, just graduated from a couple of years of training as a teacher. Didn't know shit. So you're telling me that, having the females who are older than that 21-year-old who have given birth to the child, you want that woman to go work for, Goldman Sachs or a company that is owned by the company that is owned by a company that is owned by Goldman Sachs. You want her to go work as a secretary there. That is more important than raising a couple of kids that she has, 2, 3 kids that she has, that are being raised by 21-year-old, 22-year-olds who don't know shit. Salute. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry, but this goes against capitalism. But frankly, you can't, as a society, long term wise, you can't afford this kind of waste. Yes, it's a good thing for corporations short term. The profit margins increases if they have all the labor available, both male and female. The army, look at it this way: The military, all many countries in the world, they have opened up their military to their women. Okay, I'm sorry. Exactly how many of these men outside in the society do you think are going to be very enthusiastic about a bride that has spent 3, 4 years, 5 years in a barracks, being in an environment of barracks, military barracks, with a lot of teenage boys, soldiers, just the vernacular that is comes around by spending. It's like, the jail has its own vernacular, you know, military barracks has its own demeanor and vernacular and perspective and attitude. They all, any area you step in, they all have their own vernacular, their own mood, they make their own personalities. I'm sorry, women have no place in, not in military, not in workplace, period. If you want to have a society to look forward to. Salute.